Good morning, Bonneville County. This is Idaho State Senator Kevin Cook. The first week of this session is over, and it was a busy one. So Monday, really before this session kind of starts when the governor gives the State of the State address. However, Monday morning I woke up early and went and visited with the Medicaid eligibility and fraudulent claims people. I'm told that the average person on Medicaid is there for only 18 months. So I asked for a report that would show the number of people that are on Medicaid for more than 4 years that do not have mental or physical disabilities. Remember, Medicaid is not to support a lifestyle, but it is just to help people get through those deep valleys, those deep physical valleys that we all go through from time to time, to help them. So I wanted to know how many people have been on it for 4 or more years. We looked at that, and then I suggested, okay, if they're on there for more than 4 years, maybe we should start looking at their assets and see what's going on. What do we need to do to help them get off Medicaid? And I don't think that if there's no mental or disabilities, physical disabilities, I don't think they should be on Medicaid for more than 18 months. And so we looked at that. As we started coming up with some rules, one of the guys says, you know what, this is all wonderful, Senator Cook. Says, however, the federal government or CMS will not allow us to base eligibility on assets. We cannot look at assets. And so I was a little depressed, a little upset that was the case, but that's it is. So we're working with them to try and put in a waiver, asking the federal government for permission to look at assets for people that are on Medicaid for more than 4 years. What can we do to look at those assets automatically? I don't want to. We got AI now. Let's benefit and use AI and use our intelligence here, and see what we can do to help them and get them off, and not always have to put boots on the ground. We don't always need to hire more people in the government to go investigate this, but somehow we can do that through the software. So we're looking at that. So that was a very interesting meeting. It took probably a little longer than it should have, but it took about an hour, maybe an hour and a half to get through that. But I'm excited about the possibilities there. The biggest thing of the week was, of course, the governor's State of the State address. Hopefully you got a chance to tune in and listen to that. Lots of great information, lots of great ideas. I'm not sure if we can do everything that the governor asked for. I think my number one thing that I liked what he said was getting the state of Idaho involved with building facilities for schools. I think that's needed across the state. And not that the state should put in all the money for that. I still believe that that you need to have some skin in the game, that the communities need to have skin in the game, and they need to put up some money. But hoping that maybe with the state of Idaho could put in anywhere from 35 to 45%, maybe 50% up front to help build that school. We'll see what happens there. But along with that, there's some strings attached to it, though. Okay, so the state's going to put in all this money. There are some strings to attach, and some of the strings that the governor came up with, he says you are required to put in a 10-year plan. That's already a requirement, but some of the districts are not doing that. And he says, okay, before you can use this money, let me back up. So the governor is suggesting that we put $200 million towards this idea. So $200 million will be put aside, and then we'll bond on that $200 million that will turn into $2 billion. And then that $2 billion will be anted out by a formula to every district in the state of Idaho. And they can use that money. They can take the whole enchilada, or they can take just a drip, so much every year. If they take take so much every year, they can apply that to pay off their bonds, their levies, or put it in a savings account to build something in the future or for maintenance. Take the whole enchilada. You can take that whole big money that they're getting that's distributed to that district for those 10 years. They can get it all. And they can say, okay, we're going to use that to lower the amount that is required to build our new high school or elementary school. And then they go out with that lowered amount to bond from the communities, and they vote on that. So that would be, again, that's a big part of your property tax. You would vote on that, and that come out of your property tax to do that. So the community still has a good chunk of change in the game, the skin in the game, and the state would have. And basically the state needs to take a bigger part, according to the Idaho Supreme Court, and if we don't, we will get sued. I am confident of that. So it's important that we do our part. Okay, so I talked about some of the things that the governor strings attached to using that money. One was that you had to put in your 10-year plan. The districts need to be able to do that. Okay. The other one is he says, I don't want this money being used for like a baseball field or a swimming pool or football field, any of that kind of stuff. That he wants the money to be used for the education of our kids, of our Idaho youth. And if you want this big, awesome football stadium, great. You go raise that publicly, or you raise that through the private funds, but don't be using the state's money to do that. So I like that, even though I love athletics, but I'm not sure if Grandma and Grandpa should be paying that in property tax to build some of these big old athletic fields that we do nowadays. And so I believe the state not having that is a good thing. The other thing is they have to be up to date on their 5% maintenance. That's kind of a law that they have to do the 5% of their maintenance of the buildings. And so they're hopefully taking care of that. Some of the strings that I would like to see attached to that I've talked about is some kind of incentive for the district to use a state blueprints or state plan for a cookie cutter standardized school blueprint plan. That we come up with a standardized plan for a high school, elementary school, middle school, and you use those across the board. So, you know, some of these high schools, they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and the money is not put into the classroom to teach the kids. It seems like the money is putting on the outside to look at this big old structure we have. And so I want that money to go into the classroom to teach the kids. Another one that was kind of I think I'd like to do a string attached to it is that the landscaping of these schools. Some of these great big old fields of grass out there look beautiful, but again, should the state of Idaho be paying for that? Should the taxpayers, Grandma and Grandpa, be paying for that? In Lewiston, they just built a brand new school, and I think they only have maybe a 12 or 15 foot green belt around the school. That's it. Everything else, they were going to go out for private or for the public to put in money, to raise money for that, and then they would do it. So Lewiston High School, they got this grass around the outside of it just a little bit. Everything else is in sagebrush. So I think that would be that way. The school, again, the skin in the game, they would come up with that. Some of the other stuff that the governor's State of the State addressed, his budget. He wanted to put $200 million into improving local bridges. This would be our third tranche that would finish all of our bridges off. So $200 million should finish that up and get our local bridges up to speed. It has $15 million to augment the transportation expansion and congestion mitigation plan to improve our traffic and roads. He's got $30 million going for investments in the state water infrastructure. In Health and Human Services, we're pursuing a work requirement for Medicaid expansion. I think that's a good thing. You should be working in something if you're taking Medicaid expansion. And so he's looking at that, as well as the legislators doing that. There's $447,000 for 8 new medical residency positions. It's a good thing. We need more doctors. We need more counselors in the state, and so it's proven that whenever they do the residency, the doctors usually stay put, and we need that in the state of Idaho. So that's a good thing. Let's see. Also, we're maxing out our rainy day funds, so we're putting $24 million into our rainy day funds. With the recession, not sure what's going to happen there, and so it's good if we can keep our rainy days funds up, so that if we go south, we'll have the money there to weather the storm and not have to raise taxes. Okay, so that was all Monday. Lots of meetings through the week. Let me just go to Thursday. Thursday we had our last Economic Outlook and Revenue Committee. Again, that committee's purpose is to figure out what the estimated revenue is for the state of Idaho for the fiscal year 2025. We got to know how much money we're going to bring in, or how much we're guessing, basically, how much money we're going to bring in for the year, and then we start doing our budget based on that revenue. So the revenue we came up with for 2024, okay, so we're still in the fiscal year 2024, we came up with and suggested that we go with $5,314.2 million for 2024. And then for the fiscal year 2025, the committee voted on $5,600 million for 2025. And so we gave that report to JFAC on Friday, and next week JFAC will vote to accept that figure or come up with their own. Now it's of note to know that the committee came up with the $5,600 million revenue. That is just slightly less than $100 million less than what the governor's revenue, which he based his budget on. And so obviously we're $100 million short of what the governor did and for his budget. So something's got to give there. We're not sure what we're going to do there, but we'll have to roll up our sleeves and go to work and figure out what's going to happen there. But it's been a very, very busy week. Lots of good things happening. I'd love to hear from you. If you've got some thoughts, things that we need to be looking at, please text me, email me, call me, whatever works for you. Anyway, it's been a busy week, great week in Boise, and love to hear from you. Have a great week. Talk to you later.